Hello, everybody, and welcome back. I have not seen you in person to do a PD since the early September. So, we're going to roll it out just a little bit different this time, and we're doing a mini series. Well, I'm doing a mini series to introduce to you formative assessment. We have been working very hard on effective questioning, and now we're gearing up for a formative assessment. So, today is part one of the three-part series. You already got some of this information front loaded to you through the county, and you went to a PD, and you got our wonderful people at the district to give you a presentation that is content related and based on where you are, whether that be in core or beyond the core, ESC, whatever it is that fits and is tailored to your needs. You already received that first piece. But now I just want to switch your focus just a tad bit into what does that look like at Dutchtown. So you got your introduction, and now we're going to go a little bit deeper into the actual how this works at DHS. And please be sure to read the bite-sized newsletter that was given to you in your boxes that will give you a little bit more background as to where we are, show you some graphs, show you some things in vocabulary, and how you can support our goals as a school as we go into this next 45 days. So I'm excited to present this to you. So give me some of your time, and I'm going to make this as quick as possible so that you have all the information you need so that you can start practicing with formative assessment with no problem. All right, so I pretty much laid our purpose already, but we're going to go through some instructional standards. We're going to look at formal and informal assessments. So we're going to take a little bit deeper dive into that. We're going to see the look fors for teachers versus students, and then we're going to go into calibration and tell you what that looks like as we're upcoming on that. All right, so you have hopefully seen this guide at some point of this year in a bite-sized newsletter or whatever it may be. Or I think you actually received one in your boxes, but that's okay. If you didn't get one, please check your email because I sent another one. And if you need a printed one, you can always come and see me and I can get that to you. But this guide is what we use as an A team, leadership team to go in and look and see how we're going to actually judge our walkthroughs. Our walkthroughs are directly aligned with the same information that is put in TEKS, our teaching standards that we're looking at as well. But this is our Henry County walkthrough, and it's more tailored to our school, and it's directly aligned to our CSIP. So these are some of the standards that we're looking for and that align to this formative assessment. So this is the why behind the formative assessment. So over across the district, and I've said this before, we have been looking at standards-based instruction as a first key. And the biggest piece of this is the learning target that is clearly stated, is student-friendly language, is understandable for what the student needs to know by the end of that class period. They also need to understand the success criteria, meaning what is it that I'm going to do in this period that is going to ensure that I have mastered the standard. So we will do some more work within the success criteria area, especially if it is kind of new language to you. But success criteria, essential questions, standard-based instruction. That is the rigor. We want to know the depth and the breadth of the standard, and that should be happening within all things that you're doing within your instructional framework. The next big standard that we look at is formative assessment practices. And that's where we're really honing in on today. This is the lowest scoring standard amongst the county. And this is the piece where we're doing most of the work in. So we want to be assured that your formative assessments you're using instructional strategies to not only gather data, but to monitor it and to make the adjustments in real time. So that's why we're going to go over what formative and informal looks like. We're also looking for pre-planned questions to help with those formative assessments, which we have been working on since August. And we have not yet quite met the goal, but we are moving in the right direction, and you'll see that data within your bite-sized newsletter. So then the last piece is the instructional framework, where we're finding we want to see the sense of urgency within your instructional framework. Now we have multiple instructional frameworks going on in the building. That's gradual release. That's the 5E model that's in science. And we're also seeing a new framework in math. So just to let you know that we still want to see you moving through the instructional framework. We want to see that you have really grasped the differences of the instructional framework. You understand what they're asking for and what that looks like in action in your classroom. So instructional framework, IF1, standards-based instruction, and formative assessment is our alignment to where we are right now in our next 45 days. So let's move right into formative assessment. We have formal and then we have informal, right? And so as we look at the two, and yes, I do know you can read, but I'm just going to go over some of these things that we see in each, okay? So the first one for formal is that it can be administered before or after learning. So maybe I'm trying to see where my students are. Maybe I need like a diagnostic to see, are they even ready for what I'm about to teach them? Or is it something that I want to see after I've taught this specific standard and I just want to see where they are? So these can be like our CFAs, which are our common formative assessments that are given by the district. They also can be quizzes, exams, standardized tests, unit tests. They're graded, okay? So students know they're graded. They're expecting them. They should kind of be sort of quick, but enough to gauge where they are within their learning, within the learning process. They should be administered multiple times over the course of the academic year to accurately measure the student growth between administrations. Just to see, I need to see where you are between Unit 1 and Unit 2. I need to figure out where I need to go back, reteach, or re-engage you with material to ensure that you're ready for that summative exam when it's time. They are designed to understand students' performance in relation to other students or to assess individual students' performance. Can be used to be placed for placement decisions and often involves multiple choice responses. So this is not your constructed responses, long drawn out test. That would be more like a summative, but this is going to be something that is going to gauge where students are in the learning process. Now, as we get into informal, this is really like your checks for understanding. This is really where you're adjusting in real time. And that's how they should be utilized. Therefore, immediate feedback. Okay, so that's allowing you as the teacher to make the right decisions, to do whatever modifications need to happen, whether that be right within your class period and while you're instructing, or that be the next day to adjust the instruction and say, oh, they didn't get it that day before. So I need to make sure that they get it tomorrow during my warm up. So there's some things to think about. This can look like your exit tickets, your entry tickets, your choice boards, your 1-minute essay, your brain dumps, low stakes. It's normally not graded. It's just for the teacher to see where you are. Give students the opportunity to demonstrate what they know and are able to do it in a more disciplinary, authentic way. We just want to see where you are. And from where you are, I'm going to adjust my instruction. So that's the two different ways you want to think about it, okay? When you're looking at the different types of formative assessment. All right, so formative assessment look for us. Now, again, let's go back to the walkthrough tool. Sometimes we come in, you see us with these papers, and you're like, I wonder what they're writing down. We're writing down a lot of stuff, okay? But at the top of the paper is the look fors, right? The look fors are teacher look fors and student look fors. So this is exactly what is on the paper. I just made it fancy, okay? So your formative assessment look fors, when we're looking at teacher actions and what you're doing. And right now I have a star by one of them for a reason, but I also want you to know that we're not looking at every little piece of this every single time because there's so much you can do in a 15-minute walkthrough. But I do want you to take these in consideration, especially as you're planning for practice. That you're reinstating or reinforcing the learning target and the goal or the success criteria throughout the lesson. What we're seeing, and this is an area where we need some growth, okay? 9 times out of 10, we're seeing the teacher go up and tell us what the learning target is for the day. But they never circle back throughout the lesson to tell the students, okay, this is where we're going. By the end of today's lesson, you should be able to do this, this, and this. We're not seeing that. And so we're asking you that when you're going through your lesson and you're going through your instruction, start thinking about how many times you go back and reference the learning target and the goal. How many times you're allowing students to remind them, by the end of this class period, you should be able to do this, this, and this. So please make sure you're speaking to that language and it's done out loud. Teachers use a variety of standard aligned formal and informal and technology enhanced formative assessments. Again, there's so many different types of formative assessments that you can do, whether that be formal or informal. Sometimes we see both, sometimes we see one, sometimes we see none. It just depends. But start thinking about putting that into your practice and being very intentional about your formative assessments. When we say technology enhanced formative assessments, that can be a question done on Google Classroom where you pose a question to the class just to see where they are, gauge their understanding. It can be a poll, it can be a Gimkit, it can be a Kahoot. It is something that is quick and it's a chance for you to understand where students are. I put a star by the next one because this is where we have also had a little issue with. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we're honing in on this one in particular, which is pre-written standardized formative questions to gather evidence of learning from all students during the lesson. Now, I get it. Some of you have 35. CTAE has sometimes 40. It just depends, right? So I understand that some of your class sizes are huge, but we want to see you asking the formative questions that are open, not closed, but opening questions for your students to be able to answer and elaborate on. We want to see it done for mostly all of your students in your class. So finding creative ways to figure out how you can gauge where all students are on those open questions in real time and they're speaking to the questions. But you have to plan for that. When you're planning for questions, there's intentionality behind it and make sure that you get what you want from the students. Okay, let's move on. All right, so teachers continuously gather evidence of learning throughout the instructional framework, adjust the instruction in real time. That's something that's always been there. We're going to keep going with that one. Make sure you're planning to identify the student learning mastery, misconceptions, and adjust instruction as needed. Reteach it if needed. And you know it becomes a reteach when it's only 50% mastery. That's a whole class reteach at that point. Make sure that you provide quality feedback on the progress for the students that is going to help them reach the mastery and the learning goal. And we'll get into that one a little later in the series as we really go through feedback and how to give that to students and make sure that it's ready for the next piece. All right, so for students, what are our look for? What are we expecting students to do when we're going into these walkthroughs? Well, we want to make sure that they understand the learning goal, but they can speak to the learning goal. As a student sitting in a classroom, I'm sure they want to know where they're going. Like, what are we doing? What am I supposed to be accomplishing by the end of this class? I don't just want to sit and get. I need to know what is the purpose of this lesson? What is the purpose of this instruction? And they should be able to self-assess themselves to see if they have attained that level of mastery. So you want to have it visible, you want to speak throughout the lesson, but you also want the students to understand exactly where they're going by the end of the lesson, and they should be able to determine if they have mastered that learning target for the day. Learning target, learning intention, same thing. I kind of like learning intention better, but that's another story for another day. Okay, students complete a variety of formal and informal assessments before, during, and after instruction. So think of points within your instruction where you can gauge where students are, and that could be an informal or formative assessment, just depending on how you use it. So that's the one that I want you to look at to make sure that your students are doing in your classroom. So that's something that you can put into practice. Students can set learning goals, self-monitor them. They can articulate the level of readiness for the next steps and demonstrate mastery. That's always a good one. So that's another thing to think about. And then make sure that they effectively use exemplars to guide their individual progress. As we continue with this series, we'll go deeper into that one. It is highlighted in red for a reason, because we're going to go back to it into detail. And then last but not least, that feedback throughout the process of review and revision of the work product, so that they're not only not only you are giving the feedback, but they're also understanding the feedback and what they're doing so they know how to adjust in real time. All right, so why do we have look forwards? Well, it sets clear expectations. It establishes a standard of excellence. We have all the same understanding of what we are looking for. It is transparent, it is clear, and there is no, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. So it's very important that we communicate to you what the look fors are and what we're doing in practice. It serves as a bridge to practice, and it helps us unify around a common focus, which is right now effective questioning to lead into formative assessment. So, calibration is coming up, and that will happen next week amongst the A-team leadership team. So, expect us to kind of be in and out, expect us to be in groups because we are calibrating on this tool to ensure that we're giving you actionable, bite sized feedback in real time and that it is consistent so that you're not receiving one thing from one person and another thing from another. We want to make sure that it's very consistent and we want to make sure it's very clear. So calibration will start next week. So please, please, please expect us to be in and out. Know that feedback is good, okay? It's a coachable moment. It's something for you to take and to figure out how to adjust the instruction. With that, put these things in practice. So start looking at how you can implement those formative assessments. Be very intentional about your formative assessments. If you need any more supports, any things to read, I'm going to give you some things that you can kind of read, go through to kind of give you a background on informal versus formative assessment. But I want you to put it into practice. Start implementing it into your lessons, into your lesson plan, and being very intentional about marking that on your lesson. And last but not least, please ask for support if there is something that you need from our team. And as a school, we work as a family, and we have said this for years and years and years, but you got to know that we're here to support you. Everybody's here to support one another. We all grow together, whether that be you getting feedback from us or you're giving feedback to us. So it's always good for us to be transparent, but it's also good for us to communicate with each other. But if you need supports, please don't feel like you cannot ask because I will be there the best way I know how. Because remember, y'all only got one idea, but I will try my best to be there. And if I can't be there, we work as a team. So make sure that you are reaching upon your instructional leaders in the building, your department chairs, anybody that you feel comfortable with that can help support you, that has a grasp on this next concept. And that is it. I tried to make this as short as possible. I know this might have been a little lengthy, but hopefully it was very informational. I cannot promise that the next one will be this short, but y'all have a great day. And if you need me, you know how to reach me. And I am here to support you. Thank you so much, Dutchtown, for all that you do. And please, please, please grab your newsletter and share this video with whoever you need to share this with. Go back, rewind, however you need to get it again. This is part 1 of a part 3. And thank you so much for your time. This has been your quick moment in instruction, your bite-sized moment. Have a good one.